All right, welcome. Let's go ahead and call the November 1st, 2019 regular meeting of the City Council to order. Our invocation tonight will be given by Council Member Tyson Hermes.
All right, thank you, Mayor. All right, let's bow our heads and pray. Thank you, Father, for your goodness, your grace, your love, your mercy, your peace, your power, your provision, your direction, your joy, your strength, and your guidance. Father, you are our all in all. Thank you for what you've done and for what you are doing in our lives. We love you and we exalt you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Please rise for the pledge. Okay, Ms. Hoffman, can you please take roll?
Mr. Burke,
Here.
Mr. Cahill,
Present.
Miss Kyle, Mr. Skidmore, Miss Sedkamp, Miss Cahill, Mr. Meyer, Miss Skidmore, Miss Pitts, Mr. Nicely, Miss Reckers, Mr. Hermes.
Here.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Hoffman. So you've received a copy of the minutes for the October 1st, 2019 regular council meeting and the October 15th, 2019 special council meeting. Are there any additions or corrections to be made at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion that we adopt as presented. Mr. Meyer and Mrs. Reckers. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, you've also received an agenda for tonight's council meeting. Are there any additions to be made at this time? Okay, I'll entertain a motion that we adopt this agenda as presented. Mr. Meyer, Mrs. Reckers, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Tonight, our first special presentation is our business spotlight. We have Mr. Tom Smith here with us. He is with A&S Electric, and he is celebrating the 50th year of A&S Electric being in the city of Erlanger and in business. So we're very, very pleased to have him. If you'd like to come to the podium.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Mayor, Patty, for bringing me here. A few of you I know. Tyson, good to see you again. A&S Electric has been in Erlanger since 1969. I am second generation and in the process of turning it over to the third. Erlanger has grown exponentially since we started. I started working for the company in 1976. We have not moved an inch. Erlanger changed my address twice, but that's just progress. And we are now on a through street as opposed to our address was the end of Kenton Lands Road. Anybody that's old enough to remember, you came over the railroad tracks to get to us instead of under them. Thank you, Erlanger, for everything you've done for us, and we are very proud to be part of Erlanger. That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay. The next special presentations are our oath of office for Dennison and Jansen. Lieutenant Lemming.
Good evening, everybody. Tonight, we're going to swear in our two new recruit officers, Jeffrey Jansen and Clayton Dennison. Both graduated from DOCJT on October 24th. Both are currently in our FTO program. Both are sons of police officers. Sheriff Mike Jansen from Campbell County, and Clayton's dad is a retired Boone County police officer and is now with Boone County Sheriff's Office. We're happy to have them, and we can't wait for them to get out to FTO so we can get them on the road. Guys ready?
Okay. So comments of those other than council members, also known as public comment. Dave, you have the, I'm going to quickly call up Mr. Jim Brown. He has PAC 708 here with us today. They came early at 6 o'clock for a little tour and a little question and answer session. And Mr. Brown has a small presentation to give.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. Scouts, would you join me, please? We are the Arrow of Light. We have two patrols. We're from PAC 708. We meet at River Ridge Elementary. And we have scouts from all over the area. We have a bunch from Erlanger, Ellesmere, Villa Hills. And we wanted to come and meet my favorite cities, officials, and come to a meeting tonight. So thank you, Madam Mayor, for hosting us and answering and teaching our scouts. And thank you, Council Member Hermes, for your assistance as well. Chief Whitaker, could you join us at the podium, please? Back in the spring, hang on to it. You're good. Back in the spring, our scouts visited the Erlanger Fire Department, and Chief Whitaker had his crew host us, and we worked on not only our first responder requirement, but also our emergency preparedness requirement. And we wanted to give Chief Whitaker a little thank you, a token of our appreciation, because when we were in the fire department, the scouts, and as you can see, we're all big patch guys and girls. We love our patches. They noticed all the patches that were in the fire department and commented on them and had questions about them. So we wanted to give Chief Whitaker for the fire department one of ours, and it also has our first responder and our emergency preparedness that you and the fire department helped us earn. So that's for your patch collection. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Scouts. Appreciate the Chief.
Thank you.
I think this may be an appropriate time, too, to make a quick announcement about Chief Whitaker. The Center for Public Safety Excellence has just recognized Chief Whitaker as a CFO, a Chief Fire Officer. He is joining the ranks of about 1,400 chiefs worldwide now with that designation. So congratulations, Chief.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brown. So the only person that's on the list is Miss Linda Krifsky, if you'd like to come to the front. And the microphone is already on, so you're good to go.
I'm so loud, I don't know if I'll need it. I hate talking, but my name is Linda Kripsky. I live in Brightleaf Estates, and I've been involved with the canine program for Erlanger since ASCO came onto the force. But I just wanted to come up here tonight to give a shout out to a nonprofit that I volunteer for in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania, called Protection for Paws. And it's protection, the number 4, and paws. In August, I received a text message from Michael Clark, who's the handler for Bodo, and he had some equipment failure, and the equipment was discontinued, and he asked me, do you know anybody that can help us out? So I said, well, our nonprofit, we have 42 dogs on our wait list, but you can get on our list, and I gave him some other organizations to contact. So when the founder of Protection for Paws saw that Erlanger was on the list, she called me and she said, Linda, part of our rules are that we take care of our local dogs first. And because you're such a part of our organization, we're going to bump Bodo up to the top of the list. And sorry, I get emotional. So anyway, August 25th is when he contacted us. August 27th is when we shipped the equipment. So Bodo was equipped with a full new hot and pop system from Ace K9, with also a state-of-the-art app that he can constantly monitor his car, the temperature, whether it's running, the battery life, and the total of the equipment was a little over $3,000. But because I've worked so closely with this organization, I just wanted to give them a shout out to say thank you for what they did for Bodo, for our city, and for me, which I'm very grateful. But I wish you all would go on to Facebook and look up Protection for Paws and follow them, because they do a lot of great things, and they've helped a lot of dogs in this area. But mainly, I'm just so glad they helped our city. Thank you.
Linda, thank you so much for your dedication to our police department and our canines. It is greatly appreciated. I'll make my mayor's report pretty brief. I just wanted to thank all of the people that attended the Women's Initiative from the Chamber with me about 2 weeks ago. We had quite an experience and a lot of wonderful city employees attended, and we got some really good training on leadership and understanding, self-awareness, and it really benefits having those team building experiences. So I wanted to thank them for investing in themselves. So thank you. I also wanted to give a little shout out to Officer Blake. Last night we went out on a ride along, and it's always so eye-opening to go out overnight in your city. So we all drive the streets all day long, but when the sun goes down, there's different challenges and different issues that are out in our community, and making sure that we understand those challenges and are trying to be creative in the solutions are so important. So I appreciate her willingness. We were out till about 2 o'clock in the morning, and all kinds of interesting things happen at that hour. So I appreciate her willingness to have me ride along with her. Mr. Kramer, do you have anything to report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think I briefly talked about this last month, but we did finally this week get our approval letter from OKI approving our grant for Commonwealth Avenue to refurbish the sidewalks we have on the south side and to add sidewalks on the north side. The project was approved for $923,611. The design phase is scheduled for 2022, with construction being 2024. That's a 20% grant, or 20% match for the city. So that was another grant we received from OKI. It's two in the last 2 years. So our grant manager has done a great job at setting those up to make sure that they get approved. So that's another plus for us. We'll start working on that here over the next year to make sure everything's in line for that. The only other thing I have is over the last month, my family and I have received some donations from city employees and an outside vendor due to some of family issues we've been having. The value is over $100, and per our code of ethics, that needs to be brought to a public hearing and either be approved or denied by council. I sent council a detailed email about that. The vendor was about $150 in gift cards, and then from the employees was approximately $500. And I just was requesting a motion to either return or accept that donation.
Ms. Rebecca. Oh, we're going to do motion? You're motioning? Okay. For approval? All right. Mr. Burke? Okay. All in favor say aye. Aye. Approved.
Okay.
All
Thank you.
those gifts were sent with love, period.
Thank you. Penny, any questions? That's all I have.
All right. Mr. Gatlin?
Think it may be already, someone might be realizing this, but we do need to go into executive session tonight. You got, all right. If you got it taken care of, then that's all I have, Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Glenn? Would you like to speak on our capital improvement projects?
Okay, thank you, Mayor, Council. It's always a privilege to get to talk about Public Works. I'll keep it brief. I think I've only got about 3 pages of notes here to go over. It's your fault for inviting me, so. Leaf collection program, not a capital project, but a program that we're working on that's very important. It started October 21st. We visit every street in Erlanger 4 times, and it will conclude on December the 6th. If anybody would like to see the schedule, you can visit it on our city webpage under Public Works pull-down tab, Seasonal Services. Riggs beautification, Phase 1 and Phase 2, which encompasses all the pole landscaping beds, which there are 16. And then what I call the knuckle, which is the streetscape landscaping bed at the corner of Erlanger Road and Riggs is now completed. So Public Works would like to thank all the volunteers that we had from Duke Energy and Bottom Line Solutions. They were great. In all my years of working with volunteer groups, everybody has great numbers they like to throw at you as far as people are going to bring. They brought more than what they thought, and it was really, really a great turnout. Ongoing with the whole beautification on Riggs will be Phase 3, which will be in front of the substation. So Duke Energy has granted the city $5,000 for doing some additional streetscaping improvements there to just help soften that whole area, and it's actually working out great. Our sidewalk improvement program, that's an ongoing program that we're in Zone 2, so we just finished Crescent, so we put all new sidewalks along Crescent Avenue. The contractor has pulled off to do a little bit of other work. We're not sure if he'll be back to do anything yet this fall. But he'll be back in the spring to complete that project, and that's an ongoing or continual project from year to year. In-house projects that we're working on, City Crews overlaid a section of Sycamore Tree Lane, and then here this week, or with the weather permitting, this week or next week, we're going to be on Lake Run for some concrete panel replacement. So we got about 6 panels out there that have degraded that we're going to be replacing. And then capital street projects, Ongoing would be Woodchase, Summerwood, Heartwood, Circlewood. JPS Construction has been working on this, and they'll be wrapping it up here by the end of the month for this construction season and finishing up in the spring as well. Circle Port entrance, so that project is ongoing. It is about half complete. That's TMS Construction, and they'll be completed this month, by the end of the month. And then we'll be starting in the spring Phase 2 of the Silver Lake from Churchill to Riggs. That's a concrete street replacement and sidewalk improvement project, which we'll be talking here under bids. And the last thing I want to talk about is Green Light Event program. So in years past, Public Works has uplit the front of this building in green lights in support of the nation's veterans and to help them all know they're valued members of our community. So that's something we're going to be doing at the end of the week, and it'll be lit for about a week. Any questions on capital projects? All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any reports of task force representatives? Okay. Mrs. Hoffman, do we have any correspondence tonight?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Next on the agenda are bids, new ambulance, fire and EMS.
I'd like to go ahead and comment on this, Mayor. The Fire EMS Committee, Councilman Nicely and myself, have had some discussion on this, and we've agreed that we would like to delay or possibly rebid the new ambulance. And we'd like to explore possibly some other options. There are several reasons behind this. First, the bid is over the budget, and that we only received one bid on this. So the bid was about 7% over the budget, and Fire EMS has done a good job of working to trim their budget to account for the difference, and that certainly is honorable and appreciated, so thank you for that. But whether whether it was under budget or whether there were multiple bids, it would certainly make the decision a lot easier. But being that there was only one bid and it was over the budget, I think we probably need to take a closer look at the documents that we sent out for the bid, and possibly entertain rebidding it. One of the other questions that we had brought up was that the possibility of maybe maintaining or overhauling one of the existing, let's make it clear too. We keep 2 ambulances in service, and the third one that we're talking about replacing or getting rid of is kind of the fill-in ambulance. It's the ambulance we use when one of the other ambulances is being maintained or repaired or serviced. And one of the things that Mr. Nicely and myself were talking about, discussing, and of course we don't have the answers for it, would be that maybe that could be maintained or overhauled. Putting $50,000 into a vehicle like that can go a long way, and it's a whole lot less than a $240,000 new vehicle. So it's something that we would like to explore. The bigger question is, why didn't any other companies bid the project or bid the new ambulance? There are a lot of companies out there that this is almost exclusively what they do, whether it be fire trucks or ambulances. Horton, Braun, Miller, Wheeled Coach, Osage, Marquis, Lifeline, Leader, PL Custom, Sarton. There's a lot of companies out there, and it's a pretty limited field. So I would really like to maybe talk with some of those manufacturers and understand why they didn't bid on our ambulance, just so I can understand. I wonder if we didn't have requirements in there that precluded them from bidding on it. I know one of the things that we talked about was the safety of the rollover box, or maybe the replaceable box in the future. I think Braun is the only company that does that, but again, I don't know necessarily without looking into it further. I think that's all I'm going to get into at this time. Chief, did you have something you wanted us to say?
Okay, first of all, I have every confidence in the bid process. I have written bids for fire trucks before. It is a flipping nightmare. They are pristine when it comes to one thing, and it's safety. You cannot put a dollar amount on someone's life. They built that into this bid. It only cost $7,000. Is a life worth that? Absolutely, 10 times over. And the reason that it went over was because of the lift cot. That is I wouldn't have a bad back today had I had a lift cot back in the day, I don't think. But nonetheless, I totally disagree. I think they've done their homework. They've proved it time and time again. I think it's a mistake to put it off because the longer you wait, the more expensive they're going to get. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'll go with her statement. No one said that we can't have safe equipment. That's number one. And we want safe equipment. But I think, no, it should be competitive with other people.
First of all, I can address the spare that Councilmember Hermes was discussing. The spare I had sent to council should have received an update and kind of a Cliff Notes version of how we operate with the ambulances. Our new ambulances go to Station 1 for 3 years. They transfer to Station 3 for another 3. They then go into the position of the spare unit for 3. The current spare is a 2010 on its second or third engine. It had a 6.4-liter Ford engine, which was a disaster for Ford. The new ambulances have the 5.7. To put another engine in there, you can't put a 5.7 in that spare because it doesn't match up with the transmission, and you would be into the near $100,000 into a 10,000-year-old ambulance. As far as Councilmember Sudkamp, yes, Braun has the unibody, solid body construction, and somebody else had mentioned the prices going up. We would lose our 2019 rebate of $4,200, and delaying would also cause the chassis price to increase, and that's based on previous years. The chassis price never stays the same. It has always gone up. Those are the facts. I used to sell fire trucks. I did it for 2 years. It's where I got all this gray hair. You think it was from here? You know, it was from selling fire trucks, and I know the work that goes into placing a bid. And again, you know, City Clerk Hoffman, we advertised, we followed all the statutes, we did our due diligence in that. I know, I will, you know, I don't want to argue with Mr. Hermes. I appreciate the concern of not reaching out to other vendors, but then again, if somebody's interested in selling an ambulance, it's their accountability where I feel they should have, you know, come to us. We posted it. It was well known. It's not a secret. But again, if I can answer any other questions. Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't it save us money by getting a Braun so that you can use, you can replace the chassis in the future and?
That is exactly, yes.
So there's a cost savings on the back end.
Correct. We hope to take the next round of the spare and do a remounting as opposed to purchasing a new one.
Yeah.
That is something with the Braun that we're able to do, and that should be significant savings for
And
us.
PennCare is the premier vendor or dealer for the Braun in the area, correct?
Who is it? I'm sorry.
Isn't PennCare?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
That they're pretty much the entire region.
Yes,
leader
there
for
are,
Braun?
I know, I mean, the few that he mentioned, Miller, I'm aware of all of them, just having been in the industry. You will see in this area, you'll basically see Braun, Horton, a few Wheel Coach, and those are basically what's in this region. And I can't speculate as to why, I just know those are the 3 local vendors that usually bid. Why Horton did not, I can't answer. Again, that's something I can't respond to. Yes, ma'am.
As a former EMT with Erlanger, walk a mile in their shoes. See what it is to need. You need the lift cots, you need everything, you need state-of-the-art, you need safety. You are going to lose all these rebates. Everything is going to get more expensive. It always does. And if they need it, they want it, they should have it. That's the way I feel, and I think we should go with just the one bid.
Well, Ms. Cahill, I wouldn't disagree with you, but I'm curious as to what cruiser we might not buy, or, because we're limited on the amount of capital that we set aside for the year. And if you said that they have they've already found room in the budget to pay for that lift cart, then, why not get a bid for that part and then still handle that out of the operating budget? If we've already found the money in the budget, or in their operating budget to do so. I don't know if that requires a complete new bid or not, but.
That your point is well taken, but if we can save some money for the taxpayers and get the equipment cheaper, why not do it? Just because we got the budget doesn't mean we have to spend it if we can get it cheaper.
But if we have an inoperable third ambulance or a faulty third ambulance, why take the risk? Aren't we gonna, don't we wanna look at it from like a cost-benefit analysis to pay a couple $1,000 extra for a safer piece of equipment so that our residents and ourselves are not put at a risk if the ambulance is?
We're not talking about junk or something. We're talking about the state-of-the-art safety equipment. We're not talking about something that's not safe. But if you can if you can go and buy the same car someplace for $5,000 more, are you going to do it? I would.
I would like to address the success that we have had with the last 2 Brauns as well. We have had, it's obviously about safety, but it's also about reliability, durability, and lowering our vehicle maintenance budget. And I don't have a crystal ball to tell you that a new Braun will be to the same success, but I can tell you about our past Brauns, and they have been outstanding units as far as reliability for us. That has.
Mr. Hermes, Mr. Nicely, is this something we should discuss additional at another committee meeting?
We certainly can. I would like to get started with working with the fire department and explore the details of the bid that was put out. I'm not necessarily saying that we're rejecting the bid. I mean, I think we've still got about, I think we've got till November 27th to accept that. I think I'd like to just delay the decision at this point and explore, the bid and try to understand why we only got one bid.
That's only 3 weeks. I don't think that's enough time to redo it. They've done their
You're right.
homework.
It's not enough time to redo the bid. That's correct. We're not talking about rebidding it yet.
I don't want to talk about rebidding it at all.
I realize you probably don't, but honestly, it comes to this council through the council committee, and we're not pushing it through to council to make that decision yet.
I assume, Mr. Hermes, you are relying on the internal policy.
There is a bid policy, yes.
It's an internal policy.
Yeah.
Mr. Kramer, has that internal bid policy been codified?
No.
All right.
Did we not adopt that as part of our last?
Mr. Gatlin, there's also a procurement policy too.
I understand that. And has that, and
there is a provision in the procurement policy.
But is that an internal policy, or is that a policy that's been adopted by council? I don't know the answer to that question off the top of my head.
I don't either.
It's
But
that
I
same,
think it's critical.
but it's that same policy that we were forced to bring it to today versus voting on it 2 weeks ago, right?
That's fair.
I mean, I attempted to make a motion to vote on it at that point. We were told we weren't permitted to do so because of the procurement policy requiring a full council vote.
That's fair.
That same procurement policy says.
I'm just
the
asking
committee must
questions.
approve it.
I was not aware of this until 10 minutes prior to the meeting. And we're kind of delving into some pretty dicey issues.
I don't think it's a dicey issue.
Let me finish.
All I'm asking
Well,
is to have a little bit of time.
And I understand that, and.
That's not a dicey issue at all. What could be a dicey issue in the procurement policy, which has not been revised, this isn't new to this policy, but it says, in competitive procurements, such a description shall not contain features which unduly restrict competition.
And I don't know.
That's all I want to look into.
And I don't know if.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the bid. I haven't seen any of the documents.
Frankly,
No.
I haven't either.
Okay.
All I'm saying is I think I'm being looked at by the rest of council to determine if you, as a committee, have the right to stop a bid from taking a vote tonight. I think that's the question that is on the floor right now. And what I'm saying is that's kind of a dicey question, because I think a very strong argument could be made that if it's within the budget, this council probably doesn't even have a reason to accept or reject bids, that they've already arguably made that a part of the executive branch anyway. But I know historically in this city, and frankly most cities in the Commonwealth of Kentucky, bids are taken in front of council. And that's one of the biggest theoretical debates out there amongst folks and attorneys is, why do they do that? It's also very obvious under the law that if a bid was taken by vote tonight, the mayor does not have to accept that bid. Ultimately, the mayor, under 83A, has the ability to, and is the only one that can sign contracts. So again, the mayor does not have to, or the executive branch does not have to, go with council accepting a bid. So I think from a practical perspective, based on the internal policy that we have that really doesn't speak on a committee not taking something to a bid. I think the policy, and if you have it in front of you, please read it.
I have it in front of me. I'm
Yeah.
more than happy to read it.
Okay.
And I know that a lot of our council may not even understand that this is an internal policy. And I know Chief Whitaker wasn't familiar with it either. But this is what we have in writing. The review and approval process. The department that requests the bid will review the bids to make a recommendation to their council committee. The council members representing the department will request a committee meeting in order to discuss the proposals received. At the next scheduled council meeting, the committee that the bid pertains to will recommend to council who they would like to award the bid to. The committee should report all bidders' names and the amounts that were bid. When making their recommendation, they should state the reason for the recommendation, i.e. lowest bidder, best bid received, etc. There's no requirement under KRS 424.260 to accept either the lowest or the best bid. Council then votes on it.
So I'm not sure with what you just stated, and I don't really intend to argue with you. I'm just trying to understand the issue. But there's nothing in what the internal policy you just stated that really contemplates this situation, where a committee is not making a recommendation.
Right. So Fire EMS took it upon themselves to present it to council.
Right? But I mean, it doesn't say if there's no recommendation by the committee, the council at large cannot go forward.
Oh, sure, yeah.
It doesn't say that. But it doesn't say they can either. I mean, it certainly was not probably contemplated when Mr. Fields drafted that internal policy.
Mr. Gatlin, I'm asking for a little bit of time.
I
don't think that's unreasonable.
I'm not vetoing your time. I'm
Okay.
just trying to determine. So I guess why don't we frame it this way? Is that a motion to table this to the next meeting?
I don't know that we have enough time until the next regular council meeting. We'd have to make.
Time's money. The time that you're going to waste is going to cost More money.
Mr. Burke,
Yes.
I bid things and write contracts every day of my life.
Oh, and how do you know I don't?
I don't.
Okay.
But I'm telling you from my
I'm just telling you, it's
experience,
gonna cost more money if you delay
if
2
you
or
don't
3
get a
months.
competitive bid, you don't know that.
Well, you don't know it's gonna be cheaper.
That's right.
There you
But I
be.
would know if it would be the best bid if I had another bid.
Well, did you know they were putting bids out for one? It's your
didn't.
committee.
I didn't.
Oh, we got emails on it.
Oh, yeah? Maybe you can produce that.
Oh, okay. So you're their committee, and you didn't know they were bidding for an ambulance? Is that what you're saying?
When they
Or
presented
is
it,
that what you're saying? Yes or no?
all right,
All right.
I think I've made it pretty clear what I'm asking for, Mr.
That's
Burke.
fine.
Okay.
Everybody don't have to agree to it.
Sure.
All right, Mr. Gatlin, how do we move forward, please?
I think Mr. Hermans has a motion to delay this bid, right?
That's what I would like.
Okay, and how long do you want to delay
I'm
this
not
bid?
delaying the bid, I'm delaying the decision on
Okay.
awarding this bid.
Till the next,
We have until November 27th. Am I correct on that, Mr. Kramer?
Yes, we can wait till the next committee meeting and do a special
Have a
meeting
special
if that's required.
I think we should know by that point.
Well, the meeting will be the 18th. You may not have that, if you're wanting the 27th.
Now, the bid has to
You
be
know what I mean?
accepted by November 27th, so the next committee meeting is on the 19th. So we could do a special meeting before the committee meeting.
Or after, I mean, if he's wanting more time and he's gonna do this, then you'd have to have a special meeting.
Correct.
Closer to the 27th.
Well, we just do it the same day after the committee meeting if they want to discuss it first, or before the committee meeting if the recommendation is to accept.
Okay.
I've got a statement. Mr. Tyson, we're supposed to represent the fire department. And the people, how can we come along and do the people give our opinion on it when we don't let us know anything and we can't ask for something? And as far as it's going to be higher, we don't know it's going to be higher. We can get it cheaper. We don't know. But if we only got one bid, we need to find out why we don't get bids from other companies.
Okay, so we have a motion, and we would need a second, and then we would have discussion. So we have a motion on the floor to table the bid acceptance.
A second.
Okay, Mr. Myers, acceptance, or the second? Let's do a roll call, please.
You need to phrase it so we know how to vote.
I think the motion was to table the bid acceptance until the committee meeting, and we would then have a special meeting at the committee meeting date. Is that correct, Mr. Hermes? So a yes vote would be to table this for 2 weeks.
Oh, Tom?
Couple questions, Chief. So were you proposing to take the lift system out of the ambulance and do that through operations?
I'm not clear.
Were you proposing to buy the lift system out of operations and not capital at one point?
Yeah, well, yeah, we were over 17,000, and we went into the operating budget, and the email that I sent that shows the specifics, that's what we were taking out to cover the overages.
Okay. How many runs a year are you all making?
David just
Ambulance.
did the monthly for me this month. Yeah, right up from last year, I know that much.
Yeah. How often is Ambulance 3 out there as not as a backup, but as a primary?
Oh, wow. What would you think?
Just how about in a month? 5 to 6 days per month, okay. And the mileage on the ambulance 3 right now?
Yeah, Councilmember Nancy asked me that. I don't, do you guys, anybody back there happen to know the mileage?
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion before we do roll call? Okay. Ms. Hoffman.
Mr. Burke,
No.
Mr. Nicely, Ms. Cahill, Mr. Meyer,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Reckers,
No, ma'am.
Mr. Hermes,
Yes.
Mr. Skidmore,
No.
Ms. Sudkamp,
No.
Mr. Cahill,
No.
Ms. Skidmore.
No.
7 noes and 3 yeses.
All right, so we're proceeding with the bid.
Again, I think it's unfortunate that we're in a little bit of gray area here as to what our legal authority would be at this point. That's when I said we're kind of opening up a quagmire, what I was talking about. So I think council now has made it clear that they are rejecting the committee's request to delay this bid. I think that the council certainly can move forward and take the bid, but understand that if it's a budgeted item, I think that this is almost a, I'm sorry? I mean, if it's within the budget, I think this is almost a moot process anyway, frankly, and that I think it's within the executive authority to make their decision on a budgeted item. That has not been historically what we've done as a city. That doesn't necessarily mean it's illegal to not do it that way. So we have an internal policy that is arguably gray on this issue. My concern with that internal policy, and I wish I knew this off the top of my head, and I don't know if Ms. Hoffman knows this, have we codified the procurement policy or the internal policy by municipal order?
The internal policy, the bid policy, has not been
Okay.
codified. The procurement policy, I don't think that was, I can't remember if it was done by ordinance or not.
But it has been blessed by council.
I think the procurement policy was. I can look it up. I'm not 100% sure on that. Let me see.
And Mr. Hermes, what in the procurement policy are you stating that we have violated?
Mr. Gatlin, I thought I made this clear. I'm going to try to make this very clear. I am not accusing anyone of violating any policy. I am not recommending that we go with a cheaper ambulance. I'm not recommending that we take any kind of equipment off that ambulance. All I'm asking is that we have time to look at what was the documents that were put out for bid and have conversations with some of the other manufacturers to understand why we are not getting more proposals when we put a bid out there like that.
Okay. So I think, you know, we obviously can move forward with a vote tonight and a bid, but I would just say that I would like a little opportunity to kind of look at the legality of that bid and whether, and the binding effect of that bid. And that's going to take a few days.
My concern would be that there's something that we requested in there that precludes other companies from bidding on it.
And I don't know what kind of internal, I mean, I don't know what we've really looked at. Have we looked at this issue?
No, that's what I was talking to Councilman Hermes. I know I haven't looked into the bid itself.
Mr.
and-
Kramer hasn't looked at it, you haven't looked at it, the mayor hasn't seen it, I haven't seen it. Nobody's seen it.
Well, I'm not saying I haven't seen it. I just haven't looked into that much detail, because one question we had is the description of the box, would that only allow one company? So I haven't researched that part of it.
Mr. Gatlin, would it be appropriate at this point for you, Mr. Kramer, to take a look at those documents to make sure that it is legitimate? And if Mayor Fetty so decides, she could call a special meeting in advance of the next committee meeting?
I have no objection to that. I mean, I'm not trying to get in the way of one way or the other on this issue. I'm just trying to, frankly, tackle the issue as to what legal effect a committee has in this situation. The rest of it is not really my decision. So I think I've been doing this 20-plus years, and I feel like I'm at a little loss for words tonight, and I apologize to everybody.
So it's
Generally, I have some indication of an issue before the meeting. So but that's all right. That's why we get paid. My preference on this issue would be that we, and I know I feel like I'm almost siding on this issue. I would frankly rather address this at the next committee meeting, and I will, prior to that, have a detailed memo of the legal effect of committees, and it's probably something that we need to better codify as a council, because it would come from the council and not the executive branch as to the power and authority of these committees. Because the mayor obviously can make committees, but under KRS 83A, it's very clear that, the committees are a form of the legislative body, and our municipal order really doesn't dictate the power that these committees have. It dictates how we pick committees. I think at one point it even dictated where they sat. But we really have never codified what authority and power they have. So I think that's the heart of this issue.
So potentially, if we even voted, it could be non-binding anyway.
That would be my concern. So I frankly would prefer to punt this issue to a committee meeting. I would like to look at our next committee meeting, the power of committees, the binding effect of those committees. Maybe we relook at the municipal order of committees. And I also then will have a detailed legal memo on the bidding process. I know that I've looked at this issue for other cities, and whether a council needs to be a part of this process or not when it's already budgeted, which my understanding is this is already budgeted. So I would prefer to look at this issue in 2 weeks and to not have a vote tonight would be my preference.
My statement is,
But I think we need to tackle all those issues in 2 weeks.
all we're asking for is Mr. Tyson and I, we represent the fire department on the council, to give us time to check it over and see if we could do anything else. Otherwise, what is our job doing here? If we're supposed to have a job, but we don't have it, and you say veto it, everything, what are we doing here? That's all we're asking for, is to look at it. We're not saying he can't have it or he can't have it. We want to check it over and see, get our opinion. Is that asking too much? I don't think so. That's all we're asking for.
So, well, I was going to ask, if you're saying that we should wait until the committee meeting, but we've already voted down the motion to table the committee meeting, does that mean we need a motion to reconsider from someone that's eligible to make that motion? I think you're our parliamentarian, so.
I mean, no, I think at this issue, I'm going to take the position that the committee has the right to take this off the table themselves. I might be wrong, and my legal opinion that you get in writing in the next few days might say I'm wrong. I just think that's the safest path, because the biggest concern I would have, and I have to put my litigation hat on here, what I don't want to do is us accept a bid and then at some point in the future, somebody to be able to challenge that bid. So I think because we've brought up an ambiguity and an issue here with our own internal policies, and maybe they are in a little bit of, they don't necessarily jive with other policies, I just think it's safest to wait 2 weeks. And I'm guessing that it really is not going to be that detrimental if we wait 2 weeks. Okay. So I'm hearing that as a yes, that it's not detrimental if we wait 2 weeks.
Yes.
All right. So I think if the mayor is comfortable, I think we're just going to not move forward with the vote tonight. I think she has that ability. And we will move on in 2 weeks. And I've probably made 27 enemies in this room tonight, but that's okay. 37?
Definitely. Okay, so the second bid is Silver Lake Avenue Phase 2 Concrete Project, Public Works.
All right, thank you. Before you, you'll see the bid recommendation sheet for the Silver Lake Drive Phase 2 Concrete Improvement Project. Jim Villox and his staff, along with city staff, opened bids this past Monday. And as you can see on the second page, we had 5 quality bidders from JPS Construction, Rigler Blacktop, TMS Construction, M&W Excavating, and Adelita Incorporated. And from those 5 bids, it is a recommendation of our city engineer and along with Public Works Department that the city approves the low bidder, which is JPS Construction. The contracted bid is in the amount of $279,260 with our contingencies and engineering takes the project up to $318,261. This project was part of our budget for 2019-2020. Currently, it came in under the estimated engineer's estimate for this work, and we have funding to complete this project. So with that, I would like approval for the Phase 2 Silver Lake Drive Street Improvement Project. Yes. Oh, sorry.
Okay, so Mrs. Sedkamp, and who is the second? Mr. Cahill. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank
Bid
you.
accepted. Any other bids tonight, Ms. Hoffman?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Anybody have any unfinished business to discuss? Okay. New business. Mrs. Sedkamp.
Yes, ma'am. I make a motion to adjourn the regular session and move into executive session pursuant to KRS 61.810 to discuss the appointment, discipline, or dismissal of an employee.
We'll come back and do that. Just another question. If we have additional new business, we'll address that when we return?
Yep.
Okay.
We'll be coming back. Okay. You have
I
a
second.
motion and a second, and Mr. Meyer is the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Opposed? Okay, we're going to be back. Okay, so I'll need a motion to reopen. Mrs. Reckers, Mr. Hermes, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. This council meeting is reopened. Okay, now let's go back to the original agenda. Any other new business?
I did have one item, Mayor Fetty. I know during this last budget cycle, we talked about reducing the insurance premium tax. I know we ran out of time to do that for this current fiscal year, so I'd like to ask that we put that on the agenda for the next committee meeting, just to start discussing that again, so that we have ample time to make any changes in advance of the required late February, March dates.
Awesome, perfect. Thank you. We'll add that to the council committee meeting. All right, any other new business before we move on? Yes, sir. No.
All right, we have a municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, making the written determinations required by KRS 82083 for the sale or other disposition of property owned by the city. Specifically, the property being disposed are three, I'll just say executive chairs and one office chair due to the age and condition, and is being disposed as of garbage. It'll need a motion, a second, and a vote.
Okay, Mr. Cahill, Mr. Hermes, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Next, we have a resolution, order of the City of Erlanger, Kentucky, authorizing and directing the mayor of the city to execute an easement to Duke Energy. This is a gas line easement that will be necessary for the service and construction of the gas line through City of Erlanger-owned property. Do you want to discuss that any further, Matt, discussing where the property is?
Yeah, the property is actually in Boone County on Turfway. It's connected to Erlanger Road. I sent council a email showing the description of the property and where that is, if anybody has any questions about that.
That was the piece that connects between Queensway and Turfway? Is that
Correct.
right?
It's at the end of one of the trees.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is a resolution that would require a motion, a second, and a vote. Is that a motion? All right.
Okay, Mrs. Sedkamp? Yes. Discussion after a second.
I second.
Okay, Mr. Meyer, now any discussion?
Yes, the
I wasn't
question,
looking for
the
no
question was,
smart
do we get paid
remarks.
for this? Duke Energy is paying for the temporary and permanent easement, approximately $28,000.
They're paying for the easement,
Correct.
okay. But I don't need those smart remarks up there from Patty. Well,
Any other discussion? Mrs. Kidmore?
I just have a question. With it being 807 Erlanger Road, okay? It has nothing to do with the big office complex like Van Mel and all of those up there on the hill where they're having all that controversy with they can't find Erlanger Road on the GPS and they're cutting through Cherry Hill. Is it clear on the other side?
Yeah, it's down the road where the dead end of Erlanger Road is now. It's past that, actually. Correct. It's in between the dead ends. That makes that a little more clear.
That's as clear as mud.
It's the property behind the Erlanger subdivision before it gets to the businesses up off Turfway, sorry. I sent you a map, a complete map.
I use my GPS. I don't look at a map.
Okay, any other discussion? This is lively. All right, let's go ahead and vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, next we have a resolution of the City of Erlanger to authorizing $48,000 in reimbursable sync funds, whereas the City of Erlanger will be responsible for the 20% local match of these funds, any ineligible costs, and the costs in excess of the reimbursable total of $288,000. This resolution authorizes the mayor to enter in the agreement with the Commonwealth of Kentucky, which is related to the Dole Connector project, which was previously approved by this council.
I move we adopt the resolution as read.
All right, Mr. Meyer, Mr. Burke, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, next we have a municipal order which will be appointing a new chief of police. I would request council to make a motion to add that to legislation item number 4.
Okay.
Do we have a
Mr.
second?
Hermes and Mr. Cahill, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, we have a municipal order of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, approving the mayor's appointment of Kyle Rader as chief of police pursuant to KRS 83080, subsection 3. That appointment will become effective January 1st, 2020. This also will require a motion, a second, and a vote.
Okay. Mrs. Reckers, Mrs. Sedkamp, I'm sorry.
I didn't know if she was
It has.
pushing her hair back.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. All right. That concludes legislation. Any announcements? All right. Do I entertain a motion? Do I entertain a motion that we adjourn? Mr. Hermes? Mrs. Reckers? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Have a good